You watching right now, check your pocket. I'm serious. Because there's a penny people toss away every single day, and that mistake is quietly costing them thousands. If you've ever seen a wheat penny with a last digit of 7, 5, 9, or 1 and didn't think twice, that's how silent fortunes disappear. These coins don't shine. They don't look special. Nobody talks about them. And that's exactly why collectors are fighting behind closed doors. Real auction shock happens over pennies that look boring, dirty, even ugly. Do not spend these coins. One tiny digit can flip 1 cent into serious money. And every coin we cover today gets rarer, scarier, and more valuable. Stay till the end, because what comes next is how collectors get rich while everyone else stays unaware. Now listen carefully, because this first coin is dangerous to ignore. At first glance, this penny almost looks tired. A grayish, antique surface. No sparkle. No shine. The kind of coin people dump into a jar or slide across a counter without a second thought. And that's the trap. This is the 1947 wheat penny with a D mint mark. And if you've ever spent one of these, I need you to understand something right now. You didn't just spend a penny. You let hidden wealth walk out of your life. Here's why this specific year is so loaded with pressure. 1947 wasn't calm. America had just come out of World War II, factories were shifting gears, metal demand was insane, and the US Mint was under brutal production stress. Denver was pumping out coins fast, hard, and cheap. Speed mattered more than perfection. Dies wore down. Strikes softened. Quality control slipped. That chaos is exactly how rare survivors are born. Most of these pennies didn't age well. They got abused, corroded, cleaned, or destroyed. The few that survived untouched, that's where the money lives. Hold this coin in your hand, and it doesn't feel impressive until you know what you're feeling. About 3.11 grams of solid bronze. Roughly 19 millimeters across. Thin at about 1.5 millimeters with a smooth, familiar edge that's traveled through decades of pockets. The girth, right around 60 millimeters, feels ordinary. That normalcy is what makes this terrifying. This coin blends in perfectly. It hides. Look at the front. Lincoln's portrait isn't flashy. It's calm, serious, almost worn into the metal like it belongs there. That softness, collectors love it. If it's original, flip it over, and those 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent, like a whisper from another era. No bold claims. No warnings. Just history pretending to be spare change. Now here's where people destroy fortunes without realizing it. That grayish antique look, that darkened old surface, that's not damage. That's survival. That's original toning. Decades of natural aging that collectors obsess over. The second someone cleans this coin, scrubs it, polishes it, or tries to make it shiny, the value collapses. Forever. Cleaning doesn't help. Cleaning kills. Never clean this coin. Ever. And that tiny D mint mark under the date? That's where collector obsession kicks in. Denver minted wheat pennies from 1947 in original condition are hunted aggressively. Quietly. No hype. No headlines. Just serious buyers watching, waiting, and striking fast when one shows up untouched. This is not loud auction behavior. This is controlled, competitive, almost predatory. Why? Because survival today is rare. Most 1947 with D pennies were spent hard during post-war America. They bought groceries, gas, bread. They lived rough lives. Finding one with its original skin intact, no harsh cleaning, no damage, no chemical shine, is like finding a time capsule. And collectors don't flip these. They hold them. They lock them away. Supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps climbing. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. In today's market, a genuine 1947 wheat penny with D mint mark in the right preserved condition is bringing around $120,000. Not because it's flashy, but because it's real. Because it survived when others didn't. Because it looks ordinary enough to fool almost everyone. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Original toning matters. Professional grading is critical. If you ever find one, the first thing you check is the date. Then the mint mark. Then the surface. Dirt, darkness, that old antique look. That's not your enemy. Impatience is. People rush. Collectors wait. Patience is how quiet wealth is built. Most people miss this. That's not fiction. That's how silent fortunes stay silent. And stay right here, because the next coin makes this one look tame. The next wheat penny is rarer, more aggressive at auction, and so easy to spend that people are losing life-changing money without even slowing down. Next up, stop scrolling for a second, because this coin is the kind that makes people laugh right before they realize they just lost a fortune. This wheat penny looks bad, old, dirty, circulated hard. The kind of penny cashiers don't even want in the register. And that's exactly why it's one of the most dangerous coins to ignore. We're talking about the 1937 wheat penny with no mint mark. And if you've ever brushed one aside because it looked ugly, you played directly into a collector's hands. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This coin doesn't reward people who like shiny things. It rewards people who know history and know when not to interfere. 1937 was not a relaxed year in America. The country was crawling out of the Great Depression, but pressure was still everywhere. Jobs were unstable. Money moved fast. Coins didn't sit in drawers, they worked. The U.S. Mint was pushing massive quantities into circulation because people needed change constantly. Philadelphia, the mint that produced coins without a mint mark, was under non-stop demand. Speed mattered. Perfection didn't. Dies wore down. Planchets weren't always ideal. Corners were cut. And that environment is exactly how rare survivors are created. Most 1937 pennies were beaten into the ground. Bent, cleaned, tossed, melted, spent until they disappeared. The ones that survived in original, dirty, circulated condition, those are the ones collectors get emotionally attached to. Pick this coin up and it feels normal. That's the scariest part. About 3.11 grams of bronze, mostly copper with a bit of tin and zinc mixed in. Roughly 19 millimeters in diameter, about 1.5 millimeters thick, with a girth right around 60 millimeters. Nothing about the measurements screams money. It feels like a penny because it is a penny. Just one with a silent fortune trapped inside it. Set. Look at the front. Lincoln's portrait isn't crisp anymore. It's softened by decades of real circulation. That wear, that's proof of authenticity. Flip it over, and those wheat stalks look tired, almost faded, framing 1 cent, like it's apologizing for existing. And there it is, no mint mark. That absence is everything. Philadelphia issues from this year, when untouched, trigger collector obsession. Now let's talk about the part people get wrong and permanently regret. That old dirty surface, that darkened tone, that uneven color, that is not damage. That is original skin. That is history still clinging to the metal. The moment someone tries to clean it up, the value collapses. Instantly. Forever. Never clean this coin. Dirt is not your enemy. Cleaning is. Collectors fixate on tiny details most people never see. The shape of the date, the spacing of the letters, the softness of the wheat lines, the way the color fades instead of shines. These aren't flaws, they're fingerprints of survival. And when one shows up untouched, collectors don't make noise. They get quiet, aggressive, collection. Why? Because they're not making more of these. Because supply is shrinking every year. Because the best examples are already locked away and not coming back. And here's the number that changes how this coin feels in your hand. A genuine 1937 wheat penny with no mint mark, in original old circulated condition, is commanding around $150,000 in today's market. That's not hype. That's real money moving quietly between serious buyers. That's hidden wealth, sitting in jars, drawers, and pockets, getting spent for nothing. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Original toning matters more than shine. Professional grading is critical. Guessing ruins value. If you ever find one, slow down. Check the date first. Then, look for the missing mint mark. Then study the surface. Patience creates wealth here. Rushing destroys it. Most people miss this because they're in a hurry. Stay till the end of this series, because the next coin is even worse. It's a wheat penny, so overlooked, so easy to dismiss, that people are still spending it today, and collectors are quietly paying more for it than some people make in a year. Next up, this one doesn't scare people because it looks ugly. It scares people because it looks too normal. I'm talking about the 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark. And this is the exact kind of coin people confidently spend because it looks clean, sharp, respectable. Very fine condition. Not beat up, not suspicious. Just ordinary. And that false confidence is how a hidden treasure quietly disappears. Here's why this year hits different. 1955 was pressure. America was exploding with growth. Post-war money, new homes, new cars, new lives. Coins were moving non-stop. The Philadelphia Mint, the one that strikes pennies without a mint mark, was under relentless demand. Speed ruled everything. Dies were pushed. Metal was stressed. Pennies were struck fast and released faster. It was a production environment that created chaos quietly, without anyone noticing at the time. And that chaos matters, because while millions of 1955 pennies were made, almost none survived in original very fine condition without being cleaned, damaged, or overhandled. People trusted these coins too much. They spent them, polished them, improved them, and every one of those actions erased value permanently. Hold this coin, and it feels deceptively safe. About 3.11 grams of bronze, mostly copper, with tin and zinc blended in. Around 19 millimeters wide, 1.5 millimeters thick. A smooth edge with a girth near 60 millimeters. It feels exactly like every penny you've ever touched. That's the danger. This coin hides in plain sight better than almost any other wheat penny. Look closely at the front. Lincoln's portrait still has definition. The jawline is there. The coat lines are visible. Nothing looks wrong. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks are clear, balanced, proud, 1 cent framed, like it belongs in circulation forever. And there's the detail collectors lock onto immediately. No mint mark. That absence tells them this penny came from Philadelphia during one of the most intense minting periods of the 20th century. Collectors don't want abused examples here. They want restraint. They want a coin that shows honest wear, but not interference. That's why very fine condition is the sweet spot. Enough circulation to prove authenticity. Enough detail to prove survival. Enough original surface to prove nobody touched it with chemicals or cloth. And listen carefully, because this is where people ruin everything. Do not clean this coin. Not lightly. Not carefully. Not just a rinse. The moment you strip the original surface, the silent fortune evaporates. That soft tone, that natural color, that slightly aged look, that's not dirt. That's value. Original toning is the difference between pocket change and serious money. Collectors obsess over tiny things most people never notice. The spacing in the date, the crispness of the wheat lines, the way light hits the surface without flashing back. When one of these shows up untouched, bidding doesn't get loud, it gets intense. Private. Aggressive. Coins like this don't bounce around auctions. They vanish into collections where they're held, not flipped. Why? Because demand keeps rising and supply keeps shrinking. Every year, fewer clean examples exist. Every year, more collectors want one, and they're willing to wait and pay. In today's market, a genuine 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark, preserved in very fine, original condition, is commanding around $115,000. That's hidden wealth. That's a silent fortune sitting in jars, drawers, and yes, still in circulation. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original condition is everything. Professional grading isn't optional. It's protection. If you find one, slow down. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the surface. Patience creates wealth here. Impulse destroys it. Most people miss this because the coin doesn't scare them. And stay right here, because the next wheat penny is even more dangerous. It looks newer, cheaper, and more harmless than this one. And that's exactly why people are still losing life-changing money without ever realizing it. Next up, this penny doesn't look valuable. It looks survivor-level ugly. And that's why it's one of the most expensive mistakes people are still making. This is the 1919 wheat penny with no mint mark. And if you've ever seen one that looked old, dirty, worn down, and thought, this thing's trash, you were 1 second away from spending a silent fortune. Here's why this year is explosive. 1919 was not a peaceful time in America. World War I had just ended. The economy was unstable. Inflation fears were real. Factories were overworked. The U.S. Mint was under brutal pressure to produce coins fast because the country needed money moving immediately. Philadelphia, the mint that strikes pennies without a mint mark, was running non-stop. Speed crushed precision. Dies wore out. Strikes weakened. Pennies were rushed into circulation like emergency supplies. And almost none of them survived clean. Most 1919 wheat pennies were destroyed by life. They paid rent, bought food, passed through exhausted hands during one of the most chaotic transitions in U.S. history. They weren't saved. They weren't respected. They were used. That's why the ones that survived in original old, dirty, circulated condition are so powerful today. Pick this coin up, and it feels heavy with time. About 3.11 grams of bronze, mostly copper, with tin and zinc blended in. Roughly 19 millimeters in diameter, about 1.5 millimeters thick, with a familiar smooth edge and a girth near 60 millimeters. It feels ordinary, until you realize how few are left. Look at the front. Lincoln's portrait is softened, almost melted into the metal from decades of circulation. That wear isn't damage, it's proof. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks look tired, uneven, slightly faded, framing 1 cent like a whisper from a harder America. And then you notice it, no mint mark. That tiny absence tells collectors this coin came straight out of Philadelphia during one of the most stressed production periods in mint history. Now listen carefully, because this is where people erase hundreds of thousands of dollars without realizing it. That dirt, that dark, uneven color, that antique, almost grimy surface, Adidas, that is original skin. That is survival. The moment someone cleans this coin, scrubs it, polishes it, brightens it, the value collapses. Completely. Forever. Never clean this coin. Cleaning doesn't restore it. Cleaning destroys it. Collectors fixate on microscopic details most people ignore. The shape of the 9 in the date. The spacing in Liberty. The depth of the wheat lines. The way the surface absorbs light instead of reflecting it. These details trigger obsession. When one shows up untouched, auctions don't get loud, they get quiet. Bidders move fast. Numbers jump. Then the coin disappears into a private collection. Why? Because collectors aren't selling these. They're hoarding them. They know supply is collapsing. Survival today is incredibly rare. Most were cleaned decades ago. Others corroded. Others vanished into melting pots. Every untouched example that surfaces tightens the market even more. And here's the number that changes how this penny feels in your hand. A genuine 1919 wheat penny with no mint mark, preserved in original old circulated condition, is bringing around $235,000 in today's market. That's not hype. That's real money moving quietly between people who understand exactly what this coin represents. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Original toning is everything. Professional grading is critical. Guessing destroys value. If you ever find one, the first thing you check is the date. Then the missing mint mark. Then the surface. Patience creates wealth here. Impulse creates regret. Most people miss this because they think dirt means worthless. Stay right here, because the next coin is even more dangerous. It looks slightly newer, slightly cleaner, and far easier to trust. And that false sense of safety is costing people more money than any penny we've covered so far. Next up, this penny doesn't scare people because it's rare. It scares people because it feels safe to spend. I'm talking about the 1941 wheat penny with no mint mark. And this is one of the most quietly dangerous coins still slipping through hands today. Old circulated condition. Nothing flashy. Nothing suspicious. The exact kind of penny someone confidently throws into a vending machine, never realizing they just spent hidden wealth. Here's why 1941 is a pressure year collectors obsess over. America was standing on the edge of war. The economy was tense. Production was accelerating. The US Mint knew something big was coming, and coins were being struck fast to keep money flowing. Philadelphia, the mint that produces pennies without a mint mark, was under non-stop demand. Dies were pushed harder. Metal quality fluctuated. Pennies were released into circulation at a brutal pace. That environment doesn't create perfection. It creates rarity decades later. Most 1941 wheat pennies didn't live easy lives. They moved constantly. They paid for meals, newspapers, bus rides. They were handled, dropped, scratched, and spent without mercy. Almost nobody thought to save them. And the ones that survived with their original circulated surface intact are the ones collectors quietly fight over today. Hold this coin, and nothing feels special until you understand what you're holding. About 3.11 grams of bronze, mostly copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. Around 19 millimeters wide, roughly 1.5 millimeters thick, smooth edge, with a girth close to 60 millimeters. It feels like every other penny you've ever touched. That's the camouflage. This coin hides perfectly. Look at the obverse. Lincoln's portrait shows honest wear, not damaged wear, the kind that only comes from real circulation. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks are still there, softer now, framing 1 cent like a quiet reminder of pre-war America. And then collectors spot the detail that changes everything. No mint mark. Philadelphia issue. High pressure year. Original surface. This is where people make irreversible mistakes. That dull color, that slightly darkened tone, that used look, that's value. That's original skin. The moment someone cleans this coin, polishes it, scrubs it, or tries to brighten it, the value dies. Instantly. Never clean this coin. Not gently, not carefully. Never. Original toning is the difference between pocket change and a silent fortune. Collectors fixate on details most people ignore. The thickness of the wheat lines, the spacing in the date, the way light absorbs into the surface instead of flashing back. These coins don't cause loud bidding wars, but the competition is intense. Quiet, strategic. When a real one appears, it doesn't bounce around the market. It gets locked away. Why? Because collectors aren't selling. They're holding. They know supply is shrinking every year. Survival is the key here. Most 1941 pennies were cleaned decades ago. Others corroded. Others disappeared forever. Each untouched example tightens demand even more. And here's the number that makes people stop breathing. A genuine 1941 wheat penny with no mint mark, in original old circulated condition, is trading today for around $130,000. That's not hype. That's real money quietly changing hands while the public keeps spending them. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original condition is everything. Professional grading is critical. Guessing destroys value. If you find one, slow down. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark. Study the surface. Patience creates wealth here. Rushing creates regret. Most people miss this because the coin looks harmless. Every coin in this video had one thing in common. It didn't look valuable. That's why people keep losing them. Wheat pennies don't scream money, they whisper it. And the scariest part, you may have already had one and never knew. But don't relax yet, because the next video uncovers a wheat penny so overlooked, so easy to dismiss, that people are still spending it today, while collectors are paying more for it than some houses cost decades ago. Stay sharp, check your change, and never underestimate a penny.